I am the Prince of the Dragons!
I changed the color using my remote. Yes. What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. This is one part Dragon Prince Season 2 review and one part why you should watch this show, because I feel like not enough people are talking about this show, not enough people are watching it. You need to dive into Season 1. Season 2 just dropped. There are now 2 really good seasons of a really good show, and I will get into all of that here in a second. If you guys missed it or didn't see it, I reviewed The Umbrella Academy yesterday, The Breaker-Upperers, another Netflix movie, and now we're talking about my third thing of the weekend. Just binged the entire season, The Dragon Prince Season 2. And I shouldn't say anything. I didn't watch Season 1 until a few weeks ago. I watched it progressively over the span of a few days, and I have to say, I was very impressed with what I saw. This is a show from the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of my favorite shows of all time, even featuring a familiar voice that you will recognize from that show. He is the lead of this show. He does a wonderful job. And this entire series, it is Avatar mixed with like Game of Thrones for kids, but also for adults. And I think this is something that is going to resonate. Give it a chance, because the animation style, the TV show, the series itself is something that's going to resonate. So even though I've already started the review, let me read you the premise of Season 2, and then we can start officially. So the premise of this show is 2 human princes forge an unlikely bond with an elfin assassin sent to kill them, embarking on an epic quest to bring peace to their warring lands. And did I say Game of Thrones for kids? Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, that style of storytelling. It's this fantasy epic aspect that you really enjoy. Even throw in The Legend of Zelda, because when it comes to the elf aspects of the show, I'm sitting there, and the animation style might have something to do with it, but I'm sitting there thinking, this reminds me of the cutscenes of Zelda, and I may have been tricked by the animation style. But guys, if you want something that is just cool to look at, watch this show. You can tell it's a bit lower budget than other shows, and sometimes the animation is a bit robotic, but I think that kind of adds to the appeal to the style. It's something that is different, like we saw with Into the Spider-Verse, something that came out in theaters and surprised everyone with how cool the animation style was. I think the colors, the way that the characters move, the way that they talk in this show, I just really enjoy it. It's something that's different. It may be not as high quality animation, but it works for the story they're going for, and I think it really works for Netflix. So the first season, or the first book, as they like to call it, which I think is once again really cool. You take the Avatar elements, and I like that, but it really sets up the characters and the story nicely. It gets you engaged. It allows you to sit there and kind of think about where they could go and why they're going in this direction, and I really like that. And as I kind of predicted, not the story, but I predicted that Season 2 would take this story, expand on the lore and the characters, and just, as people like to say, go big or go home. Well, Season 2 is a lot bigger, it's a lot more broad and grand, and I like that, and I really enjoyed Season 2 and where this show is currently headed, guys. This is one of those shows that I think is going to stick with the kids who watch it for a long time. They're going to look back and say, I grew up with The Dragon Prince. As I said, I grew up with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that's a cool thing to think about. I don't think it quite matches the excellent plot of the first season, but this season focuses more on the characters, the people that we are following. We dive in, and it doesn't just give you one storyline. It kind of veers off and splits into really 3 distinct storylines. We're following these 2, we're following this group of people, and then we go back to the castle, and I really like how all of that flowed. This show in general just flows really well as you interweave through the stories. If I had to pick a favorite character, it would be Callum. Like I said, it's our guy from Avatar: The Last Airbender, so I'm familiar with his voice, but I really like what his character goes through, especially in this season. He's coming into his own a bit more. He wants to learn magic. He wants to be a wizard. There are so many things he wants to do, but he slowly learns and progresses. And without spoiling anything, because I don't want to spoil anything about this show, because what I want you guys to do, because I know a lot of people haven't seen it, go and watch it, but he really starts to become a man in this season, whereas he was learning in the first season how to go about doing this task that he has set off to accomplish. He did that task, but now he's becoming an adult, and I really like seeing that character progression. Rayla and Ezran and Viren, they're all good. They're all back. And like I said, the storylines kind of diverge into different people doing different things. And I thought that worked super well for the tone, which kind of matches up with all of the different storylines and the pacing that progresses the plot forward. Now, like I said, this isn't too plot heavy or as plot heavy as the first season. It's way more grand and there's a lot more going on. But what we need to focus on in this season is the characters, and they do a good job of telling us that in the story. Like I said, I don't want to dive into the plot, but here's a quick example of why why I think the storytelling is just so interesting and it's doing something different. In episode 2, there is a conflict between Callum and Rayla. There is a secret that she is keeping from him and hasn't told him yet, and she's trying every way into the world to get herself to tell him, and then finally, instead of her getting to tell him, Claudia actually beats her to the punch, and that could provide for a major conflict between these two characters. But instead of lashing out like a normal character would in a normal story, Callum actually goes and thinks about what has just happened and tries to figure out, how am I going to tell this news to my brother? It goes in a different direction. It's a story that takes chances and does things that you hardly see in animation, especially in animation. He starts talking to his brother Ezra and goes on a monologue about emotional significance, and it's all so beautifully told, and later on you realize that he did not actually get the chance to tell his brother what happened. He couldn't do it, and that is something that is going to resonate with a lot of young kids and resonate with a viewer like me. I think that is beautiful. This story, this storytelling, it's all so good for a show like this. It's a show that is full on fantasy, but it deconstructs fantasy tropes. It's a show that invests in its characters, but it will also do things that you do not expect it to do. It is slightly predictable. I think that's just because of the nature of it, but it's also something every now and then it will take a turn that you are interested in. You're like, you know what? I respect that and I like what the storytellers are doing. There's a scene where a king is talking and is describing his desire to build a kingdom that is fair for all races and classes and genders, and I'm just sitting there like, is this really a kid's show? I mean, it's coming off like a kid's show, and every now and then some of the jokes are kind of like, okay, maybe that's a miss more than it was a hit, and the humor occasionally is directed towards young kids, but then you get stuff like that, and the conversations, and the monologues, and the dialogue, and you're just like, this is way better than it should be, but I like that. But because of that, it's more interesting. The villains even have a great amount of depth. A lot of times you get these animated shows and they never really flesh out the villain. All they do is focus on the heroes. No. The Dragon Prince, especially in Season 2, they're going to go in depth with the heroes, but they're also going to make you try to care about the villains. And when the conflict comes and things start happening, without spoilers, it's immensely more interesting than it could have been. And it's just the little things, the tricks that they do with the animation, the fact that the little dragon baby sounds like a little puppy and it's making the dog noises. I'm like, I want to pet it. They do it in the show. They're like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, hey, you guys got me. It's the dog. Beautiful action sequences. I think the action here is better. It just looks better than Season 1. I think that's the progression of the CGI. Maybe they got a bit of a higher budget for Season 2 than they did Season 1 because they saw Season 1. They said, you know what? This is something. Let's give them more money. I think some could watch this and say, you know, it's a bit too goofy for me, but I think the show just knows what it is. Like Avatar, and I know I keep comparing it to Avatar, and I'm sorry, I apologize. I just see so many similarities, but this show knows what it is. It's that goofy sense of humor that I think allows us to love these characters and really feel for them when the emotional stuff and when the deep stuff actually happens. And because of those things, I think Season 2 really improves on many aspects. Maybe the plot isn't as strong, but the characters and where the story goes at times and the progression of the action scenes, which I thought looked awesome, are even better. Guys, I know I kept this review in particular a bit more vague than I usually do, but that's because I want you guys to go and check out this show. I think it's one that could become an all-time classic in terms of kids shows that push boundaries and do something different, especially within a fantasy world. And because of all of those things, I'm going to give The Dragon Prince Season 2 an 85%. Really good storytelling, really good animation. It's everything you wanted from Season 1 to continue on. It does that, and it does it in a way that will surprise you at times. And I think The Dragon Prince is a show in general, Season 1 and 2, 9 episodes each, 30-minute episodes. You guys can fly through it just like that. And I think if you need something to do this weekend on Netflix and you're a big fan of fantasy, go and watch The Dragon Prince. I don't think you will regret it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, you can go check out my other Netflix videos every Thursday. I'm doing a theatrical review. Next Saturday is the Flick Fan Awards. I can't wait to show you guys this. I've been working on it for so long. All of the nominated things that you voted on and you chose the winner for will be announced by not just me. Some other YouTubers will play a part. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching this video. You are the absolute best. And comment your thoughts down below. Let me know, did you see The Dragon Prince, and did you like it? I'll catch you guys later.
You are listening to PopX Cast, where science fiction meets pop culture.
Captain's log supplemental.